This is purely a journalistic point of view. Nothing more has been said in this video other than that of which has been reported by various media sources and backed up with sources seen at the end of this video.
Known for his straight-edge lifestyle and iconoclastic personality, Phil Brooks took a long but steady road to stardom as wrestler CM Punk, rising from the ranks of TNA and Ring of Honor before being signed by the WWE. Although he faced a questionable future in the land of giants, he won over fans, holding the WWE Championship for an impressive 434 days, the sixth longest reign in WWE history. Over time, Punk struggled with politics, questionable booking, and pressure to work, despite being injured. In late January 2014, Punk walked out on the WWE, beginning a very personal war between himself and the promotion. The story of CM Punk would become an example of the WWE's willingness to disregard its fans and employees, both out of spite and arrogance in booking. Join us as Behind the Titantron examines CM Punk vs the WWE. CM Punk's claim to be the best in the world was hard to deny. As we noted last time, Punk became the first man to win consecutive Money in the Bank ladder matches, won the WWE Triple Crown in the shortest time, and proved effective working as a heel or a face. Furthermore, the straight-edge superstar's historic 434-day reign as WWE Champion would be the sixth longest reign in WWE history. He had accomplished so much since he debuted on the main roster in the summer of 2006. Punk had always maintained a positive attitude about his abilities in the ring. Some though have seen it as arrogance. Bruce Pritchard, who worked in the WWE's creative department during Punk's early run in the company, saw it as an asset. In his The Rise of CM Punk edition of the podcast, Something to Wrestle With, Pritchard acknowledged Punk's boasts, but felt they were motivational, not only to Punk, but to his fellow wrestlers to best him. Pritchard saw it as an asset when a wrestler is determined to be the best. Despite Punk being over with the fans and dependable in the ring, Punk questioned whether he was being booked as a true main event star. For someone who had done so much and been given many opportunities, was this complaint legitimate or a case of selfishness? While things exploded between Punk and the WWE in January 2014, Punk's problems with the company date further back. In 2011, Punk reportedly was close to leaving the company. In a 2011 interview, he revealed, "The last 12 months, I was leaving. I was out the door. I wasn't quitting. My contract was up and I was like, you know what, my contract's up, I've fulfilled my obligations to you. You have fulfilled your obligations to me and you let me slip through your fingers." Punk ultimately chose to stay with the company, arguing he wanted to change it from the inside. "I couldn't change this place from my couch, so I re-signed and I'm trying to change it." Punk decided to stay, but in hindsight, was it the right choice? 2011's Summer of Punk saw the Second City Saints' momentum reaching a seemingly unstoppable level. That is until Triple H inserted himself into Punk's storyline, wrestling and defeating Punk at Night of Champions. The program with Hunter was seen by some, including Punk, as a move that served no storyline purpose and only hurt Punk's momentum. The incident would stick with Punk, with him reportedly telling Helmsley, "I seriously resent you for not putting me over 3 years ago when you should have." In 2015, Triple H appeared on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast and discussed the brief program with Punk. "I've never had a beef with him. I never have. We worked together. When he first did the thing where he walked out, dropped the pipe bomb, and we did this storyline and the match was brought in, it was done for the right reasons. I think it was done to get us into him and get him more over. But the decisions that were made were Vince's and were made to help him. And then they didn't work out for whatever reasons. He held a grudge on that." Punk's dissatisfaction with the WWE was building, incident by incident. Punk would eventually question the WWE's booking of him in the big picture, particularly as WWE Champion. Looking at the WWE's 2012 pay-per-view schedule, it's clear Punk was often out of the main event, including his reign as WWE Champion. Consider the following 2012 pay-per-view lineups. The Elimination Chamber saw a main event of John Cena vs Kane. WrestleMania's main event was Cena vs The Rock. Extreme Rules featured John Cena vs Brock Lesnar. Over the Limit was headlined by the questionable main event of John Cena vs Raw General Manager John Laurinaitis. No Way Out ended with John Cena vs The Big Show. It would not be until September's Night of Champions that CM Punk was in the main event, and this was against John Cena. From there, Punk main evented pay-per-views, but it's arguable that this was done to set up his Royal Rumble bout against The Rock. Punk lost the WWE Championship and would not headline WrestleMania in 2013, once again failing to reach the brass ring that eluded his WWE career. When examining Punk's complaint about his booking, his face and heel turns must be taken into account. Frequent face and heel turns can be problematic, and while Punk did not experience frequent turns like The Big Show, some have been questionable. For example, at the 1000th episode of Raw, Punk turned heel on The Rock, reportedly at The Rock's request. According to Punk, McMahon told him, "Rock's coming back, and he wants to work a bad guy. You're the champ." Punk claims McMahon said that he would owe him one afterward. If Punk's story is true, McMahon's promise was the wrestling equivalent of the check is in the mail. The situation between Punk and Vince McMahon is by no means unique. Bret the Hitman Hart would repeatedly be put in the spotlight only to be asked to put someone over as Vince McMahon looked for his next big star, ignoring the big star in front of him. It can be argued McMahon treated Punk as a secondary star, despite Punk being over with the fans. Another problem co-founding Punk was wrestling with nagging injuries. Wrestling while hurt is part of the job in professional wrestling, particularly when wrestlers are concerned about keeping their spot. As we detailed in our last episode, Punk wrestled after a skull fracture, defying doctors' orders. However, by 2012, Punk was a main event star, and while working hurt was to be expected, he also had to consider his ability to perform in the long run. After surgery to repair a torn meniscus, Punk returned to wrestling less than a month later. According to Punk, the WWE took no steps to ease his transition from recovery to wrestling, booking him into a TLC match against Ryback. I was like, that's in 2.5, 3 weeks. He's like, yep, your prognosis for your surgery is 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, so you booked me in a horribly dangerous match with a horribly dangerous opponent. He's like, well, that's when Rock's coming back, so we've got to get you to start that program right away. Punk's complaints are not without merit, given his early experience with Ryback at 2012's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Punk was enraged with Ryback's lack of talent and sloppiness during the match, claiming the Ryback match took 20 years off my career. Punk's issues with Ryback would be revisited down the road. The stage was set for the 2013 Royal Rumble. Punk argued with Vince McMahon to keep that belt on him, leading to a triple threat match at WrestleMania 29. Vince insisted Punk drop the belt to The Rock, thus making the Cena vs Rock WrestleMania main event title match. Punk conceded, but things only got worse in Punk's opinion. Punk appeared at WrestleMania 29, attempting to break The Undertaker's streak. Punk was the latest superstar to fail in this quest. The match proved costly, emotionally and physically. Punk complained, "Explain to me how losing to a 45-year-old man that wrestles once a year is going to make me the hottest heel in the world. No disrespect. Explain to me how that works." Punk was hurt in the match, suffering a bruised patella and aggravating an existing knee problem. Punk took off time to heal and claims he found the time to be invigorating as he connected with a life outside the squared circle. He planned on taking off until SummerSlam, but Vince McMahon told him he needed to work June's Payback show in Chicago. The event had not sold out, and McMahon had Punk return for a well-received match against Chris Jericho. 2013 SummerSlam offered a glimmer of hope when Punk was paired against Brock Lesnar. However, Punk lost to Lesnar, continuing a trend of what he saw as unnecessary losses to part-time performers. So, I've got to put over The Rock and he goes away. I've got to put over Taker and he goes away. And now I'm putting over Brock and he goes away. Punk was by no means the only superstar to put over part-time performers, but that alone does not invalidate his complaint. The fall of 2013 saw Ryback injure Punk, when Ryback reportedly blew a spot, throwing Punk over a table instead of through it. As 2013 concluded, Punk was suffering broken ribs and a concussion. Things only got worse at 2014's Royal Rumble, where he suffered another concussion. Punk claims he reached out to a doctor at ringside who told him, "What do you want me to do?" Punk was near the breaking point mentally and physically. Eventually, Punk would learn he had a staph infection that he claims was misdiagnosed by WWE doctor Chris Amann. According to Punk, AJ Lee persuaded him to see a different doctor, and the doctor reportedly found a potentially fatal MRSA infection in Punk's back. The treatment was effective. Working injured, receiving questionable medical care, poorly booked, and once again left out of WrestleMania's main event, Punk walked out on the WWE, no-showing the 27th January 2014 Raw. Punk recalls telling Triple H and Vince McMahon, "You have shackled me, you have creatively stifled me, you have made this a very toxic environment. I no longer want to be here." CM Punk and the WWE were on the brink of war. Punk was not the first superstar to walk out on the company, so there was hope there could be reconciliation. Vince McMahon initially seemed optimistic, publicly stating he felt CM Punk was on a sabbatical. If so, Punk has been on a sabbatical from the WWE for 3.5 years. Triple H reportedly texted Punk in June 2013, only for Punk to reply, "Send me my royalties that I have been asking about for 2 months. That is reasonable, and then I will talk to you when I get back from my honeymoon." Instead, Punk received his termination notice the day of his wedding to AJ Lee. In July, Punk vowed he was never returning to the ring. Vince McMahon would later apologize, claiming the timing of the notice was purely coincidental. By July 2014, it was clear Punk was gone for the duration. WWE.com moved the CM Punk profile to the alumni section, confirming what fans suspected. That didn't stop the WWE from milking the CM Punk cash cow. The WWE Network released a Best in the World feature on CM Punk in July, followed by the announcement that WWE 2K15 would feature a storyline featuring the Cena vs Punk rivalry. Punk enlisted his lawyers, eventually receiving an out-of-court settlement for the royalties from the video game and royalties owed for other projects. The war between CM Punk and the WWE did not end quietly. Punk has been vocal about being disgruntled with the company, and the WWE has taken its pot shots as well, both on screen and behind the scenes. In September 2014, Raw aired from Chicago, leading to vocal chants for their hometown hero. Stephanie McMahon would taunt the fans, asking why they cheered for quitters. It's arguable Stephanie was playing her heel character, but the higher road would have been to ignore the Punk chants. One story has it that WWE Shop Zone removed CM Punk merchandise, and search for CM Punk resulted in 0 results found for CM Punk. Following Punk's UFC loss, some believe the WWE recreated Punk's loss the next night at Backlash during the Miz vs Dolph Ziggler bout, move for move. Finally, Punk alleges the WWE is bankrolling Dr. Chris Amann's defamation and invasion of privacy lawsuit against Punk and Colt Cabana for comments Punk made on Cabana's podcast. Punk claims Dr. Amann misdiagnosed his staph infection and improperly handled his concussion. The WWE has denied any involvement in the lawsuit and issued the results of his own investigation into Punk's claim, reporting on the 20th of February 2015 on WWE.com. WWE's investigation has shown the following. CM Punk did not discuss this alleged condition with WWE's team of physicians and trainers, nor did he discuss it with anyone in our talent relations department. Subsequently, WWE has no medical records documenting this alleged condition. The first time WWE was made aware of this alleged condition was when we received a letter from CM Punk's attorney on August 22, 2014, after WWE terminated his contract. There is clear video evidence from the 2014 Royal Rumble which allows all to decide whether there's any appearance of a baseball-sized growth on CM Punk's back. Punk, by his own admission, has questioned whether Vince McMahon understood his character. That may have been the case with Triple H also. In 2015, Helmsley remarked, "He's a weird cat. I mean that as, he's hard to get to know. He doesn't talk, he doesn't communicate well. I would hear from everybody in my role now as talent relations, 'Oh my god, he's livid today, he's quitting, he's this, he's that,' and I'd go to him and ask, 'What's going on?' and I'd get, 'Nothing, everything's fine.' It's tough." How much, if any, of Punk's problems with the WWE were due to miscommunication? Wrestling fans have heard the cliche, never say never, and we are sure that Punk's return to the ring would be one of the biggest events in wrestling, regardless of where he worked. His name recognition and in-ring reputation keeps him in demand. Recently, wrestling promotion 5-Star Wrestling's creator Daniel Hinkle stated, "We want to offer CM Punk $1 million to come and join the 5-Star Wrestling tour starting June 10th. It's a genuine offer. We'd love to hear back from him from the man himself. We want to do this with him." Punk did not take the offer, but similar offers can be expected. The WWE would have to make major concessions for Punk to return to the company he has distanced himself from. As time has shown, there are no such things as burnt bridges in the WWE when it comes to making money. If the WWE can make enough money off CM Punk to justify meeting his demands, and assuming Punk desires to return, expect it to see it happen. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed episode 23 and 24 of the CM Punk saga. As always, if you can drop a like, that really helps. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you with some more wrestling content.